You ever stopped and wondered why Jesus chose fishermen as his apostles? At least 5 of the 12 we know were fishermen. Today we hear the call of 4 of them. Of course, we know that today he was in the region of Galilee, so he was by the Sea of Galilee, and this would have been a major profession. Fisherman would have been one of the main vocations, and it was a vocation that was not necessarily looked down upon, but definitely not the highest up one in the world. Was that the only reason they chose fishermen? Because they were there? Of course not. I think there is a greater reason, and I think the reason why is because we know that fishermen and fisherwomen are some of the wisest people in the world. I do believe this. Not just because I'm a nice fisherman, by the way, but I really think if you have to be a successful fisher person, then you have to be wise. And how do you gain wisdom? Well, you learn from your past mistakes and your past success. You're always observing what's going on. And hopefully every single year, every single time you go out, you learn more and more and more. I look back at my ice fishing experience. I take it fairly seriously. Not extremely seriously, but very seriously. And I could look back 13 years ago and I hardly knew anything at all. But over the years, I've gained more and more knowledge. Now when I bring someone else out with me, when I bring them fishing, they say, all we do is drop a line and put a bobber down. I go, yeah, that's all you have to do, because I'll take care of everything else for them. But over the years, then they start gaining more wisdom. It's fun to watch them learn, okay, what type of jig should they put on? What depth should they set it? Should they do an aggressive bite, a negative bite? What is the sun doing in the sky? What's the barometric pressure? All these different things. And you learn and you learn and you learn, and you become a better fisher person. So you gain wisdom in this. Because when you go out fishing or anything in our life, you always have to be observant. Now, this is only a hobby of mine. Imagine if you were a professional fisherman 2,000 years ago. How much more would you have to learn? How much more would you have to pay attention? Always staying a step ahead of everyone else on the Sea of Galilee, trying to catch fish as well. And we know that these men that Jesus chose were very observant. And they're also open to change. They're open to learning. Here they are, of course, in the beginning of the gospel. We know we're also going to hear about these fishermen at the end of the gospel. After Jesus' resurrection, he finds them doing what? Once again, going back to their old ways, not being fishers of men, but rather being fisher of fishers. That doesn't make sense, but you get the point. There we go. So they're out there fishing, and sure enough, they get skunked. They don't catch a single fish all night. And this is the time they go fishing at night. So there's Jesus on the shore walking by, and he says, cast your net to the other side. Now, if I was ice fishing on Lake Minnetonka and I was skunked and someone said, hey, Father Carlson, go drill over here, I'd be like, leave me alone. That's what I would probably say. But not these apostles. Instead, they, well, we didn't catch anything this way. So they said, fine, let's cast our net to the other side. And of course, what happens? Well, they have to drag the net ashore. It's full of that many fish, and they all of a sudden realize that was God. So they're always observant, they're always open to learning, and they're open to wherever God leads them. And this, I believe, is why Jesus chose them, because in their vocation as fishermen, they also brought it into the vocation of being fishers of men. And how did they do this? For 3 years, they spent almost every single waking moment with God, spending time with him, with Jesus, learning from him. And over again, what do they say? Teacher, teacher, teacher. Teacher, where are you staying? Teacher, teach us how to pray. Over and over again. They truly saw him as someone that would teach them, and all they wanted to do was learn. Of course, whenever I think about teaching and learning, what I think about is elementary school. It's my elementary school experience, because this is where I thought I learned the most about who I am and what I was called to be. Of course, when we look back at our own life, you probably think about those years. From 3rd grade to 8th grade are very, very, very important years in our formation of who we are going to be. And this is true. So when we think about this, and I think back to my elementary school experience, I was very fortunate enough to be at a Catholic school pretty much my whole life. And one of the schools I ended up in from 5th to 8th grade was St. Joe's in West St. Paul. And the reason I say I was fortunate is at that time the parish got a brand new priest in 6th grade. Before that, the parish had been going through a very difficult time. The pastor had been there for a while. He left on sabbatical and he never came back. This was disheartening to the parish. He just left and never came back. So there was a time of struggle, a time of turmoil. What was going to happen with St. Joe's in West St. Paul? And the archdiocese assigned a priest there. His name was Father Frederick Campbell. Of course, now he's Bishop Frederick Campbell of Columbus, Ohio. Well, Father Campbell showed up, and the first homily he ever mentioned was this. I remember I was in 6th grade. He goes, we are going to be a pro-life parish. I'd never heard the word pro-life in any pulpit ever before, any homily before. And here he was, says, we are going to be known as a pro-life parish. And of course, over the years, he set up organizations to help those who were pregnant, difficult times, anything like this. He was there to, not him, but the parish was able to set up these organizations. Well, that was not the only influence he had. He also had a huge influence on the school. And looking back now, I can see what happened and how he did it. I'm very grateful for what he did. Of course, as a sixth grader, you'd always wait for the priest to walk by in the hallway. And you wanted to stop in your class because the teacher would stop teaching. And that's what you always want, because then you'd be like, yes, I get a little break from this algebra for the second time of taking it. There we go. So you go in there, and the Father Campbell will come and he talked about many different things. I was able to interview him in sixth grade about the priesthood and just his presence and how he knew almost every single kid's name, and he cared for them in the sense that he really wanted the best for us, and he wanted the best for the school. And so he started to look into the school more and more and more, and he made it more and more Catholic. And he made the teachers make sure they were teaching the Catholic faith. And how did he do this? It wasn't necessarily just in religion class. I learned my faith in my Catholic school not from religion class, but from all my other teachers. And this was Bishop Campbell's philosophy. Bishop Campbell a couple years ago came back and talked to all the priests in the archdiocese. He mentioned a conversation he had with the governor of Ohio. He was there for the conversation with the governor of Ohio about something different than education, but the governor had just finished talking to someone on the phone about some education bill that was about to be passed or something like this. So he hangs up the phone and he goes to Bishop Campbell, what do you think about our education system? And Bishop Campbell is a very well-educated man. He's someone who has his doctorate in history. He taught in many, many colleges, professor, someone who's very, very smart. And he looked at the governor and he says, well, we have it all wrong. Of course, now the governor has the bishop has his attention. So the governor says, what do you mean? He says, we are so focused on our standardized test. Do they know their math? Do they know their science? Do they know their English? We're setting them up essentially so they may be something for a career as a scientist, as an engineer, as a social worker, whatever it may be. We're missing the main point of education. So the governor says, well, what is the main point of education, Bishop? He says, we're not forming the human being. We're not forming the whole person. We're too focused on if they know these things out of a book. When I was at St. Joe's, one of my hardest classes I took, struggled I most in, was religion. I struggled in it. I didn't ace my religion class in junior high. So if you don't ace your religion class in junior high, it does not mean you're not called to the priesthood. There we go, or religious life. Instead, where I learned my faith the most was through different teachers. Yes, the religion teacher, Mr. Schmidt, but also the art teacher, the English teacher, the history teacher, all these teachers, because they were able to pray with us. They were able to pray with me when I was going through difficult times. And this is something I needed. And they formed the whole being of me. Of course, this is what we're all called to do. As parents, as priests, what is our main goal? As a parent, your main goal, of course, is teaching your child the ways of the faith. You are the first and primary educator of the faith. There is no doubt about this. And you are the best educator of the faith. You can send your child here for school and faith formation, all the different programs we offer, 20 hours a day. But if you don't actually talk to your child about the faith, if you don't pray with them, if you don't bring them here for Mass, if you don't just tell them more about God, then that's going to be a major hindrance on them. You are the first educators of the faith, and you can teach them the best. Just like back to the example of fishing. Who are James and John fishing with? Their father Zebedee. They learned from him. The traditions passed on, and this is what we are called to do in our faith as well. Well, then as a parish, what are we called to do? Because we are not the primary educators of the faith. This is not our role. We can't be. We're not as good at it as you are as the parents. So then what is the role of Catholic education? In faith formation and also in our school. It's to assist you in teaching your children the ways of the faith. It's to assist you in helping them know, your children, the precepts of the church. Yes, but most importantly, how to encounter Christ, to know him, to love him, and to be with him. And of course, our faith formation program does a great job at this. But it's only once a week. It's an hour and a half. Our school, we have them for 40 hours. And not every single class is a religion class. We have great math classes. They know that 2 plus 2 equals 5. No? What does it equal? 2 plus 2, let's ask our choir. Let's see if they know this. 2 plus 2 is, can you please say it a little louder? They're kind of watching. 2 plus 2 is, we're still working on how to pronunciate loud. We're working on, but that's right, 2 plus 2 is 4. They know these things, right? And we can look at our test scores. We can look at our kids in high schools, that they're on the honor roll, colleges that they go to, the jobs that they land. From here is amazing. But our main goal for children is not to have them ace test. Our main goal for children is to let them know of God's love. Our main goal for our children is that they may know God. And they may have a relationship with him. And And this, of course, is addressed in our second reading today from the letter of St. Paul to the Hebrews. That last line is a very daunting line, but one we should look at often. It says what? For the world in its present form is passing away. Our world is passing away. Yes, God desires for us to have great engineers and great teachers and great social workers and great priests, to point someone else. But that's not it. And that's not all. What God desires the most for us is for us to know him, to be his sons and his daughters, and to be prepared for that world that will not pass away, that eternal life. This is what it's called to be formation of the whole human being. And this is what our parish continues to do. This is what we continue to do in our faith formation program. This is what we continue to do in our school as well. And today we come and we celebrate these. We celebrate especially our school, the opportunity that we have to pass on the faith year after year, generation after generation, to these children of ours, so that they may know of God's love. They may learn of his wisdom. They may learn of his grace, just like the apostles did, spending day after day with Jesus. Our children, our students, your children, your students, your grandkids, whoever they may be, are coming to know God and how amazing this is. This is what we celebrate. And this is where we go to God. We say, God, continue to send down your blessings upon our whole parish, upon all of our families. But in a particular way today, we ask for your blessing to come down upon our school. That we may continue on the tradition of educating the ways of our children, yes, in academics, in academic excellence, but also in the ways of faith, so that they may not only be set up for this world, but most importantly, for the world that will not pass away, a world where one is with God.